Hi everyone, I'm going to take you through the process of lengthening and shortening your pajama pants pattern. Now, as you may have noticed, these are standard size patterns and we are not all standard sizes. So we need to make some adjustments usually ahead of time in order to make sure our pajama pants are going to fit. So there's some features on the patterns I want to make you aware of. The first thing is, okay, so this is the back and this is the front. On here we have our grain line arrow. That's very important. It's on both pieces. We have these double lines. Those are where you can lengthen and shorten the pattern. You can see them over here as well. That's important because where they are is a place in the pattern or places in the pattern where they won't impact the fit of the garment. So it's not another fit point. The other thing is the fold line for the waistband. This is where the top edge of the raw edge of the pajama pants will be folded down to create the casing. So this line represents the top line of the pajama pants. The other thing that's on here, it's only on the back for some reason, is the crotch line. So this is where it's going to meet in the inside of your legs, the front and the back, and the two sides. So that's important too. So for now, I'm just going to work with the back one because whatever you do to the back, you mirror on the front. So this is our back pajama pattern piece. The first thing I need to do, well, I've already done it on this one. On this one, I'll just show you on here just in case. This grain line arrow that's on here is going to become a reference arrow. So we need to extend it so that we can see it when we make our adjustments. So we have to extend it through the lengthen and shorten lines. So there it is. So now, as you can see on this one, I've already done that. The other thing we're going to want to mark is the hemline. So the hemline is usually at the bottom. It will say on the pattern piece how much you fold up for the hem. So I'm just making a hemline because I can. So that will be our hemline. So what I'm going to do is, and I'm going to extend the crotch line across so I have it as a reference point as well, or at least to the grain line arrow, because that's where I'm going to work from. Okay, so I have measured my crotch line, my hem, I know where the fold line is. So this part from this line to the hem line, so this is where it's going to fold under, is the inseam measurement for your leg. Now I'm working in small scale, so obviously this is going to be a lot larger in real life. I prefer to work in inches when I do this. You can work in whatever measurement you like, but this is 6 inches inseam. And if we're working in centimeters, that would be 15.3. So I have decided that 6 inches, my inseam's longer than that, so I need to add to my pant leg. So what I'm going to do, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my handy dandy scissors and I'm going to cut this apart along the lengthen and shorten line. So there's the lengthen and shorten line. Apparently my legs are quite long for this little tiny pattern piece. So I'm going to add an inch to this. So what I do is I take a piece of paper. So notice I've cut this nice orange paper ahead of time. And I'm going to make a reference line on it all the way across. I'm going to use my red pen so it stands out. And then I'm going to use it to measure an inch. So I'm going to use this ruler, and it makes it really, really easy. It's a clear ruler because I know that these lines, the solid line in the center is the inch line. I'm just going to make sure I'm even. It's handy because I can see through it. If I didn't have a clear ruler, or I was working in centimeters and I didn't have a centimeter ruler like this, I would take my tape measure and I would measure the distance in 2 points. So this one should be 2.5. So I can take my green pen and I'd make a mark there. And I'd go down to the other end and I'd mark the same distance. And then I would join those 2 points together. But as this stands, this is a 1 inch difference. So 1 inch that I'm adding. So I can add +1 there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up the top part that I've cut, the top part of the pajama pants that I cut off. And I'm going to tape it in place. And that is one heck of a long piece of tape. Now to make sure I get the reference point that I need to make sure this lines up properly, I take my ruler again. Sorry about my head keep getting in the video here, and I make a mark on the bottom edge that's in line with the grain line. So that way when I go to line this up, I know exactly where to line it up. And I take a piece of tape and I put it across there. And now I've just added to my pajama pants. Then I would just take my ruler and line up the sides the best I can. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then I would take my paper scissors and cut that off. Fairly straightforward. Now, and if you decide that in the rise, the crotch depth, you need to add more, you would follow the same process. On any pattern you do, you follow the exact same process to add. So on the crotch line though, because we discussed on these pants that the rise is usually quite high, we are actually going to shorten it. So same point here, I will measure from the crotch line along the grain line up to the fold. We'll round, we'll say that's 3. And in centimeters, that is 7.5. So we've decided that that's too big for us and we want it to be 2 1/4. So the difference between 3 minus 2 1/4 should be 3/4 of an inch. So that's what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my handy dandy clear ruler and I'm going to line it up with this lengthen and shorten line. And I'm going to draw a line that's 3/4. So there's 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. Make sure it's lined up, and I'm going to draw a line. Now, I don't think my grain line is quite long enough on this, so I am going to extend it a bit more. So I have something to work on. Same as before, if I didn't have one of these handy dandy clear rulers, I would just I would use my tape measure and mark 2 points from the line and then join it with the ruler. But now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to fold along this red line. And this is much easier to do on tissue paper than it is on photocopy paper. And then I'm just going to line up that line with the lengthen and shorten line. Fold it nice and tight. And then tape it in place. So now I've just shortened this pattern as well. So I've lengthened the legs and shortened the rise, but again, you could add to the rise or shorten the legs the exact same way. I hope this video was very informative.